Hey everybody, welcome to The Whole Elephant. I am super excited that you are here for this episode. This episode is amazing, and it is because of my amazing guest. Today I have on superstar Special Olympics athlete Michael Leone. I knew when I started this podcast that Special Olympics was going to play a huge role because it's played a huge role in my life. I believe in it as an organization. I've been inspired by it personally, and today is no different. Michael is absolutely amazing. Michael has autism, but that doesn't slow him down in the least. And if you have been sitting on something in your gut that you know you need to do, that you know that you just need a little kick in the butt, a little inspiration, a little, hey, I need to get this thing going, then this is the episode for you. Michael has an amazing story, and I can't wait for you to hear it. Hope you enjoy the chat. Michael Leone, what's up, buddy?
Doing pretty good.
Doing good?
Yeah.
Thanks for coming over here, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate you doing this. When I made up my list of the first 10 people that I wanted to be on my podcast, you were in that first 10. I was like, I got to get Michael to come do this. So thank you so much for doing this. How has this whole stupid COVID thing been for you, man? What have you been up to? It seems like from social media and stuff that you've been a busy dude the last 9 months. What have you been doing, man?
So ever since COVID started, I was basically not sure what was really going on. We never knew when is this going to end? And because of all of that, I just thought, why not? Because with COVID, we started, because I'm with Tierra del Sol and Special Olympics.
Yeah.
And we've been doing stuff ever since it started around March, I believe. So we'd have online stuff. We'd do online classes for Tierra del Sol.
Yeah, let's talk about what Tierra del Sol is too first before we jump into that. For people who don't know what Tierra is, what is Tierra and what do you do there?
So Tierra del Sol is a workforce program for people with developmental disabilities. Yeah. And it's where people for just looking for a job, how to work in a job area. If they want to work for kids, like what I would want to do, You're with a preschool and you're working with, you're volunteering with the kids, but you're also learning, okay, this is what I have to do here. This is what I have to do if I need to help the children or help them give them food.
Yeah.
And also if people want to work at a thrift shop, they volunteer at a thrift shop and they learn how to do stuff with a job coach. But they go by their ability too. So if you have a higher ability that you're able to do more stuff, you'll be off campus, off the Tierra campus to do volunteer work. And if they're have less ability to do that, they can stay at the campus of Tierra. Oh, okay. And they have certain stuff they can do like art and certain stuff like that.
So basically you go to Tierra, you tell them kind of what you're interested in, what kind of career you'd like to have. They give you some training and then help you get placed in a job like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you said that you wanted to learn how to work with kids. Is that something you've always wanted to do?
Pretty much, because since with Montrose Church, I've always helped volunteer with the preschoolers, helped with VBS. Right after high school, I graduated from high school, straight to VBS. I love working with the younger kids on just showing them how to do stuff or helping them do certain stuff. That's the normal range I like working with. So preschool is my go-to area.
Nice. What kind of stuff did you learn in the job training at Tierra that kind of helped you be prepared for jobs like that? So
it's called Volunteer Education Center, the volunteer site I'm at in Pacoima, and we help with teachers. We help the children take naps. At the end of the day, we help the children with food and the teachers with the food. If they need extra help inside their class, extra help outside the class, we also help them there too. But I had the chance of helping the front office lady doing the attendance, the data entry.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes directly to the state. So whenever the principal wouldn't be at the school, I would go every day and put in the attendance for that day.
So during this whole COVID time, these last 9 months, you haven't been able to go to Tierra for these sorts of things. So what does that look like for you?
It's completely different. We're not doing the same thing, basically. We are doing classes on learning about what's going on in the world, or they do like some music classes, they do exercise classes. They have like a workforce class on learning how to get a job and do interviews. But I've also been able to teach some classes. I've taught 2 classes with Special Olympics SoCal, one on just Special Olympics and one on the law enforcement torch run, where I'm an athlete representative for that.
So not only are you still taking classes at Tierra, you're now teaching classes.
Right.
That's amazing.
And I'm also teaching public speaking classes at this time too.
Yeah. So I want to talk about Special Olympics, but since you brought up the public speaking, this is kind of crazy that you're doing a podcast with me right now, because I've known you since you were a little guy, right?
Right.
And you used to say like nothing. You were a very quiet kid growing up. And then all of a sudden you get into Special Olympics and they started to train you to be an ambassador, right?
Right.
And now you won't stop talking. Now you're doing speeches at schools, at all these different events. You're teaching online classes. What was that change in you? What did you experience that all of a sudden you went from like this quiet kid to somebody who wants to be speaking on behalf of Special Olympics all the time?
Well, I remember that I think it's like I had something in me, but I didn't know like how to let it out, let the words come out. And ever since to become a global messenger, you have to go. It was a 2-day training, I believe. And that year was at a hotel somewhere in downtown LA. And they like help you like learn like how to stand, where to put your hands when you're speaking, what to wear, how to look, what to say, and how to be like more confident, be more clear in what you're saying, and also like telling your story. So I would say like I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes in 5th grade, and then a few weeks after I joined Special Olympics, and it just took off from there. And basically like from all that, it helped me really for doing all those speeches. Like my first speech, your dad was, because he's a CEO with the World Games.
Yeah.
So he was actually at my first speech. So he was there. The former mayor of Glendale was there. And I remember they had like Glendale Adventist people because it was like a big kickoff thing for Glendale for the World Games in 2015. But like ever since, I remember that day, I had my cards. Thank goodness I had my cards for all the notes I took. Because when I was reading it, all of a sudden my cards fell down.
No.
And I was like, oh no. So I got my cards, I put them back up, and thank goodness they had the numbers on there too. I just quickly organized from there. But ever since then, it's been really good. Like I feel like every speech I felt more confident in. And maybe like 2 or 3 years after doing it and continue to do that, I feel much more confident.
Yeah. So you've said that you felt like that was always in you.
Yeah.
You just didn't know how to get it out.
Right.
So what were some of the specific trainings you did with Special Olympics to help you feel more comfortable to get it out? What's the stuff that they taught you?
They taught me like how to be clear, or basically like talking about like what Special Olympics is and how it changed your life. And that's what I've been teaching with my classes now with public speaking. Mm-hmm. My first class, I teach them, I use almost the same stuff that I got to see how to learn to become a public speaker, a global messenger for Special Olympics. And it's basically just talking about your main topic, I always say it's your inclusion, your body, and your conclusion. Just learning, okay, this is where I need to put this. This is where I need to put this. And I just felt like I figured out, okay, this is how I need to say stuff at this time. And even it's not just public speaking. It's now going out in the community. It's talking with friends. It's like talking to you now with feeling more engaging, like conversations. And
yeah,
I think that all of that just helped for that.
Yeah. So like not only the big speeches, just in hanging out with friends and stuff,
Yeah,
it helped
overall.
you kind of open up more. And that's really cool.
Yeah.
What are some of the big events, the speaking engagements that you've been able to do?
So some of the bigger ones were the Easter service, because we had like 2 services at Crescenta Valley High School.
Yeah.
I've done some at some businesses. My first ever one was at the Alex Feeder, so that was pretty cool. I also did some at, one of the nice ones were, I did some at Crescenta Valley High School and La Crescenta Elementary. I did one, I forgot the school, but it was in Pacoima. They were like doing so La Crescenta Elementary and the elementary in Pacoima were doing tried to end the R word, because that's like a whole campaign Special Olympics has been trying to do for a while now. But it's really cool speaking, like even at my schools that I've been to, just like talking to the students where I was at before.
Right. What do you hope to do? What do you want to do?
So I just basically, like, Special Olympics is you're trying to get people to like help donate and just trying to get them to be inspired to do something to help fundraise, to just go be fans in the stands.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, for me too, one of the biggest things for me that I want people to get out of like my speaking is really just being engaged and including people and inclusion. So
Right.
Special Olympics, one of the big things is inclusion, like not only just the athletes, but everyone in our world, like how to include one another. So I feel like that's what I really want to, that's one of my big things I really want to help make sure inclusion is in there.
Right. Dude, I hope you realize, like, people listening to this is inspiring, man, because there's so many times that we have like that gut feeling, right, of something we feel like we're supposed to be doing or we want to do. You know, like, I feel like this is my life's calling or something, but
Right.
It takes a lot of courage to step out. Because when you started these classes, you didn't know if you could do it or not.
No.
You didn't know if you'd be good at it. It turns out you're great at it, but you didn't know that. And so many times I think that holds people back
Right.
from even trying to do it. And it's so cool that you took that step, that leap of courage to do it. What advice would you give people who kind of have that feeling in their gut of something that they want to do?
So I'm on my second session with public speaking. So before I taught one class, and then after that, someone asked me, one of the staff from TR, like, hey, I heard you taught this class on public speaking. I was thinking about doing this too. Would you help teach me with this class? So I said, sure, of course, to that, because I like doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an 11-week class, so now I'm on my second session. That's almost about to end. But my first session, like the last class, on the 11th class, he asked me, the co-teacher I was with, he asked, hey, would you like give a speech, like a farewell speech to people? So I said, sure. And at the end of my speech, I basically just said, like, everyone has a story, like, but it's your story. And it's like your job to make sure that you speak it out, like you tell people the story.
Yeah.
Like, it's not, no one else can tell that story but you. So that's what I'm trying to like really get people to tell their story, like speak up, speak out.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and if you don't do that, then you waste it. Nobody else can tell that story for you.
Right.
That's awesome, man. Let's talk about Special Olympics. Do you remember when you first got into Special Olympics? Do you have early memories of those times?
So I believe it was 12 and a half years ago, because it's right after I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. I think I was diagnosed 2 weeks before I started Special Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if my parents like saw something about Crescenta Valley High School's hosting their first ever when it was CV Can Games
Yeah.
for Special Olympics, and I guess I just thought I'd like this be something I want to do. So I went there. I didn't practice. Usually you have practices before you do the events, but I had no practice. I didn't even know like all the different stuff they had, but I ended up winning like gold medals in all those 3 events. I believe I did 50-meter race, 100-meter race, and softball throw.
Yeah.
But like never before that would I have thought that would have happened.
You're a natural.
Yeah.
Did you like it right away?
I did, and even before, like even though I didn't at that point didn't really know like how to speak out and like speak to people, it felt like after I was diagnosed, I didn't know if I was going to be able to play sports again, or like how am I going to live my life now if I have diabetes, with the autism, how am I going to do certain stuff. And when I competed in Special Olympics, I think like all of that went away for a little bit. Whenever I'm competing, all I'm focusing on is what I'm doing at that time.
Right. What are some of the things that participating in Special Olympics has taught you over those 12 years?
Like teamwork, and like even it's amazing to see, like not even like as competing, but watching the athletes when I ever have time to, seeing how like if they have a certain obstacle that they don't know if they can overcome, but they do it. And it doesn't matter. Like so a lot of the times, even if it's like 8 people in the race and they've got 8th place, but then you just see their smile on the face, and that's what really Special Olympics is.
Yeah, that's awesome. I know that now as time has gone on, you've been doing a lot of basketball, less track and field, more basketball. You're kind of a leader on the team. You're one of the most seasoned veterans on the team. Do you feel like you're a leader? Do you take on like a leadership role on that team?
I try to, but it's also, I tried to make sure like I feel like we're like all leaders on the team. Like there's more than one leader on the team. Like there's a leader, like if someone, there's always going to be someone that works harder than you, or there's not always going to be the best athlete. It's just how you play together as a team. But I feel like there's more than one leader on the team.
You know you're the best player on the team, though.
Well, we're a little bit better now. That's what was a little bit sad about this year. Like we got more bigger and a little bit more stronger, and then all of a sudden this happened.
COVID happens.
Yeah.
Have you done anything with the team? Have you been doing Zoom workouts or like anything like that?
So we've just actually started in like the Glendale area is trying to get small teams just to do certain activities, exercises, and they do jumping jacks, they help like juggling. Mm-hmm. For me, my small team is like practicing soccer stuff. So we use a beach ball and basically just kick it against the wall and just doing stuff like that. But really it's just not the competing, it's basically just talking to everyone, seeing how they're doing, because a lot of the times they don't have, Special Olympics is one of the only things they might have in their life. So when it comes back, that's one of the great things is like the coaches try to like always talk to them, or like the athletes. That's one of the great things about like Zoom meetings or stuff like that, is just trying to stick together, not just competing, but like stick together, about knowing that everyone cares about each other. And also like outside of like with Glendale is Special Olympics SoCal is doing a healthy lifestyle challenge. Mm-hmm. So it's like every Monday through Friday, they'll usually put up a video of a person doing exercises. It'd either be a staff member. I actually did it once. So it's staff members or athletes sometimes. So they'll do an exercise one. They'll do a nutrition, hydration, or they'll do mindfulness. And that's where you learn breathing techniques. But also every Tuesday and Thursday, they have a live workout where a Special Olympics staff member actually does their workout and they'll do the exercises. They do like 3 rounds of it. But
right.
basically I learned like during COVID is there's still ways to be together even though we're not really together. You can talk to each other by texting each other, calling each other, or just seeing people on the computer. So there's still ways to communicate with one another.
Yeah, I mean, just from following you on social media, you work out more than anyone I know, man. You are constantly moving, constantly working out. Is that like something that you've just dedicated your life to? Do you enjoy doing it? Is it for health? Is it for fun? You're always moving, man.
So, like ever since I was little, like I was trying to be better than I was. Like maybe the next day, like there's always room for improvement. Like I'm trying to like go as much as I can. Like if I wasn't as fast one day, I'll try to always get better. Even though if I felt pretty good, I felt pretty good doing that, I feel like, okay, I can always be better. And the only way you can do that is keep training and just trying to stay fit and healthy. But I always feel like there's more room to improve, even though you already did something good or just something like that.
Right. So it's the challenge of always like challenging yourself to improve. That's the drive that keeps you going.
Yeah.
I need some of that juice, man. I need some of that in my own life. Maybe I just need to start working out with you. If I worked out half the time that you work out, I'd be in great shape right now. You've mentioned the fact that you have diabetes a couple times. How does that kind of affect your life? What does it look like in your life? Is it a barrier? Is it just something you have to deal with? What is it to you?
So it annoys me sometimes. It's crazy.
Sure.
But like now, like before when I was diagnosed, I'd have to get shots, which I hated before getting shots to get insulin, because now that's the only way I can get insulin was with getting a shot with the insulin in it, or because my body doesn't provide insulin, I have to give the insulin to it. But it started off like not sure how it was gonna be, but like I got through, like I was giving shots, I'd have to prick my finger to get blood to see what the blood sugar is. But then throughout the years, I actually, like now I have it's called a CGM, where I have it on my arm. So it's kind of, I think it's like a wire or something in there, so that can tell where my blood sugar is kind of.
Yeah.
And I have a little device where I can see, okay, it tells you when your blood sugar is going up, high or low. But it's crazy with sports too, is like when you're playing, but then you feel like you're low and like, oh, like that's one of the crazy things, is like you have to go out because your blood sugar might be dropping or going high.
You can feel it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's always one of the crazy things with sports too, is that I'll have to take some breaks because of the blood sugar if it's dropping or going way too high. But also when I was in camp once, I accidentally gave myself too much insulin. But it all worked out from there. But
I know another part of your Special Olympics journey has been your involvement in the torch run.
Right.
Can you explain what the torch run is and how you're involved?
So the law enforcement torch run for Special Olympics is, I believe it's like one of the biggest fundraising thing for Special Olympics overall. And it's law enforcement. So even though it's the torch run where law enforcement would run through the streets with the torch lit up through their city.
Yeah.
And then it would lead up all the way to Long Beach in the summer. And that's where it would be lit, and then the games would begin. But it's not just a torch run. They do tip of cops where officers serve as waiters, and all those tips go directly to Special Olympics. So down here, it would go directly to Special Olympics SoCal. And we have those. We have a playing pool where groups and some athletes, with Special Olympics, you always have athletes with their officers at any event or anything. You always want athletes at those events. So with the plane pool too, you have like groups, and sometimes you'll have 1 or 2 athletes per group, and you're trying to pull a plane. I forgot the distance that you're trying to get, but you're trying to pull a plane. I forgot what name of the airplane it is, what group it is, but they have those. There was going to be the Guardian Bowl last March, and then it was going to be this November. And now we're just seeing, hopefully in 2021, it's going to be at the Rose Bowl. It's flag football teams, law enforcement from the areas. Mm-hmm. So it's half law enforcement and half the Special Olympics team. So when eventually it comes back and everything's good, Team Glendale will have the Glendale PD and some of the Glendale Special Olympic athletes. So that'll be pretty cool for that. But
that's awesome.
Yeah, they do different stuff for the torch run. And we do a lot more, but those are just some of the main things for that. Right. But I'm also an athlete representative for the council for the law enforcement torch run for SoCal. And we talk about, I give like an athlete report on what's been going on during a certain time in between our last meetings and what I think we could do or what I think we should do, what the athletes enjoy about it, how much money have we raised for this, how many athletes have come to these events. But we just had our torch run too from November 1st to November 15th, and we actually tripled our amount of money that our goal was. So that was pretty cool. Wow. Even that's pretty cool. Like with COVID too, even though we're in COVID, people are still donating, and that's why it's important too, like with Special Olympics, because all the money goes directly, like with all the money Special Olympics has, none of the athletes pay for anything. Like if they need equipment, the athletes don't pay for that. They don't pay for their jersey. That's why it's so important for Special Olympics to have donations for their athletes.
Yeah.
And for what they need.
So, I mean, Michael, you're a great ambassador for Special Olympics. You not only are just an athlete, like we've talked about, you're giving speeches, you're on these councils, you're raising money, you see the big picture of what Special Olympics is and why it's important, right?
Right.
So if somebody's listening right now and they've never been involved in Special Olympics, they want to check it out, what's your pitch? Like why do people need to get involved? Why do they need to give money? Why do they need to come volunteer? What would you say to someone like that?
So, like just witnessing and seeing some of the stories, like one of the biggest thing is like just going out to the event, watching the athletes and see like how that changes their lives. Maybe like hear their story on how they got started, on what are some of their challenges, how did they overcome those challenges? Because like with Special Olympics, when they compete, they're overcoming their certain challenges they might have, and just seeing how they work together, like teamwork, like they're actually playing sports. But like some athletes, like this would have been like maybe their first time they ever ran a race. Even if they've gotten eighth place, they still finished the race. Mm-hmm. And just seeing them overcoming certain obstacles, even like with basketball too, if they never played any sport too, they've never even heard about basketball, or like even with soccer, if they've never heard about that sport, but they're out there and playing, it's pretty amazing. And like hearing their story and seeing how they're overcoming those challenges is pretty amazing. That's
awesome. Dude, you've done some incredible things. It's super inspiring. I hope that people listening are catching on to that.
Thank you.
So this podcast is called The Whole Elephant. We're trying to see different perspectives in life, how people are going through life and stuff. And one of the big things we talk about is just God, spirituality. I know you go to church, you're a Christian, all those things. What does that mean to you?
So like one of the biggest things is like when I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, I remember like before that day I went to my doctor because I was having a lot of symptoms that usually that people that would be diagnosed with diabetes would have.
Yeah.
And when I went to the doctor, I think she was like checking my blood pressure or something like that, and she saw something and was like, I think you need to go to like the hospital to check on something and see what's going on. And my mom was with me at the doctor, and I was like basically like crying, like didn't even know what's going on, like what's happening. And so I went to Children's Hospital, and usually when you're diagnosed, they keep you overnight because your blood sugar might be way up. So my doctor said, when you go, just make sure you take like bed stuff and stuff you might want.
Yeah.
So I went to Children's Hospital, and then I was eventually diagnosed. And that day, and they told me I was diagnosed, but so they kept me. So I was just in there for a few hours just to see if my blood sugar was going down at all, and it was. And like, thank God I didn't have to stay overnight. So basically, it's almost like a miracle too. Like, even though I was diagnosed, I was still being watched over, and I got to go home that night.
Yeah. So you see God as kind of like that presence that watches over you in times like that?
Right.
Where else, what other places do you see God? Do you see God like working in Special Olympics and the stuff you're doing? Do you kind of notice things about God in those things?
That's one of like the biggest areas too, like with Special Olympics. I always see that a lot, like not just competing in sports, but actually like watching the athletes compete. And like when I see stuff, when I know like some of the athletes, like with Glendale, like I've known them for a long time, and seeing like what they're doing, seeing them overcome their challenges, seeing other regions that some athletes, if they have something and they overcame that challenge, and just like witnessing that. And I feel like that's what God is doing too, like with them. Like, even though like they have all of those challenges, like he helps them like try to overcome stuff, like try to like show them like what their abilities can be, because like show them like they don't have any limits on like what they can be when they grow up, or what they want to do or want to set or accomplish.
Yeah.
And I feel like watching them doing something, even though if they didn't even win a game or a race, it's just amazing just seeing. I can really see God in that area too.
That's super cool. So you're going to church. I see you there every Sunday, man. You're taking all this stuff in, learning about God, about, love and peace and grace and how to love people and all that stuff. How do you try to implement that into your life and what you're doing?
So that's how it kind of like started, like with teaching public speaking too, and like teaching like Special Olympics is like when I learned public speaking, before it like took me a long time. I had to figure out how to do certain stuff, and I felt like basically like God is always like telling us before too, like on the Bible too, like to like help others. Mm-hmm. So I feel like with public speaking, like I felt like when like in the beginning of COVID, like am I just gonna like sit here and just like do other stuff on Zoom, or am I actually going to help people learn about public speaking and just showing them how to overcome their challenges? Because like speaking out, that's one of the biggest things that I know that anybody can do. They just need a little bit help, like learning how to do stuff. But that's one of the biggest things I'm trying to help encourage people to do certain stuff, but I've been able to do because it's possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. We all know that the internet and social media in general is just full of garbage, just negative, dark stuff all the time, especially going through this whole election cycle that we just went through. Just a lot of negativity, but your feed is always positive. Right. You're always trying to be uplifting to people. You're always trying to encourage people. Why is your feed that way? Why did you decide to make your social media that way?
So like when I like sometimes like I watch a lot of like YouTube videos and stuff like that. Like I usually like listen to music and stuff like that, but I also like listen to motivational videos. So one guy that I like with motivational speaking is actually Ray Lewis, because like watching him like speak, like his energy and just like telling like how they can overcome certain stuff, even if they have this stuff, or just like giving them hope in like the future and what they can do. And like anybody, like not even like Ray Lewis, but seeing other people like talk about certain stuff, and even Eunice Kennedy Shriver, like listening to her speech is like with like the athletes, I believe, can change the world too, because they know about inclusion. They know how to include people in the world.
Yeah.
And that's why one of the great things about Special Olympics is the athletes and anybody that's willing to speak out. That's really big.
Yeah. I mean, I think God is in all those things.
Right.
You know, God is in the fight with athletes like you talked about. He's in the encouragement. He's in the love. And I think by doing that, you're spreading God's love through being encouraging and positive, as much as a pastor, as much as someone who's in full-time ministry.
Right.
And I think that's awesome, man.
Thank you.
It's so cool. So what's next for you, Michael? What do you want to take on next? You've done a lot of things, man. You've accomplished a lot of things. Is there something out there that you're like, oh man, I want to try this, a new sport or a new speaking type of gig, a new class you want to teach? What's next for you?
So it's like kind of hard in between. Like with like I want to help with children too, but I've also like with public speaking, I've always wanted to like public speak to different groups, like being a global messenger. That's one of the great things I like about it. But also teaching public speaking, I feel like that's something I really love to do. So I don't know if I want to. I kind of like want to stay with the children area, but I also like want to help, like just seeing throughout the classes I've done, seeing the changes, the improvements people have made. I really want to. I feel like I really want to stay in that area too. But hopefully, I think like more in the public speaking area, but I still like want to help with kids. So something that I can still stay with public speaking, but also help with children.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, man, just having you here in the room with me has energized me. You just have good energy, man.
Thank you.
You just live life with a good energy. If you've listened to this and you are not a fan of Michael now, you are crazy. Michael, thank you so much for doing this, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. We're all proud of you. Your journey is incredible. And whatever the next thing is, we're going to be cheering for you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.